Good evening, everybody, and welcome to Irongeek Cast number 175. President Kanye. How's everyone doing today?
Oh, I'm doing well. I'm not dead, which is good, and it's been a rough week, man. But I'm better now.
Good to hear. I don't know if you want to tell anybody about what happened, but
Oh yeah, total shit show, man. So I was like feeling like a zombie. Like, I felt like complete and utter shit. I felt like I was dying. I go to the urgent care. The guy's like, "Here, take some antibiotics," and it's about to let me go home. So I go on my phone. I go on WebMD. And I pop in my symptoms, and it says that I have high blood sugar. So I say, "Can you run a blood sugar test?" The guy says, all right. And he goes and he runs blood sugar. It says my blood sugar is super, super high.
You got corn syrup.
Yeah, it's corn syrup. And at this point, I didn't know I had diabetes. So I go to the hospital. They tell me, "You've got diabetes." And they do like a workup, and they say, "Does it hurt when we push here?" And they push on my bottom right side of my belly. I go, "Yeah, that hurts." And they throw me for a CAT scan. And the CAT scan shows that my appendix is about to burst. So I go, and they're like, "We can't take it out because your blood sugar's too high." So they put me on a whole shit ton of insulin, dropped my blood sugar down, got me right into surgery. Took that shit out, stitched me up, all in the course of like 2 days. And now I'm back home, and I'm not dead, and I have to take insulin shots because I was horrible with my diet, and I did this to myself because I am a horrible human being.
We still love you. Yeah. And unlike some people, at least you're taking ownership of some of your life choices caused your problems. A lot of people don't do that.
It's everybody else's fault, but not mine.
The fact that my liver would be gone in 2 years, that's my fault. I know it. Actually, it won't be. I'm trying to work on that too. I've cut back a lot.
Yeah.
Recently.
That's good, man. You gotta make healthy decisions for yourself.
I just need to get my brother to do the same thing. Anyway,
I gotta thank WebMD, man. If I hadn't went and checked their site and seen that I had high blood sugar, I would have never went to the hospital, and my freaking appendix would have burst.
Well, glad you're still here.
Yeah, if it had burst, you probably would have died from sepsis.
Yeah. Crazy shit. They said they took it out. It looks rotten. I was like, oh, that's great. Nothing quite like rotten organs sitting in there in your body.
How about you, Darren? How you been doing?
About the same. Just dealing with the fucking heat down here. It's fucking hot as hell. It's actually gonna get hotter the next couple of days. Just kind of dealing with life one day at a time. That's pretty much all I can do at this point. So I'm a little horrified to hear that Kanye West is running for president. I mean, we know that this is the year of what the fuck, but that's kind of unexpected.
Like on the cake. That's not even a phrase. So like Kanye is anti-vax, and he's also anti-abortion. So it should be fun if he gets elected.
Well, he's kind of anti-intelligence. I mean, look who he fucking married.
He gets to hit that every night, though. And,
like you said, like I could think of thing. Okay.
I don't know how dumb he is, or he's just incredibly. Well, you call him crazy when by the way, someone says I hate mentally ill people. No, it's not. I hate mentally ill people. I just want them to get help.
Yeah.
I want them to get help, and also leave other people alone, because someone who's constantly, like, for instance, someone's mother's crazy, they can easily pass it on to their kids. I know it's not genetic. Some aspects are, but I mean, certain behavioral issues cause other behavioral issues in other people.
Yep.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so mental health is actually genetic. It is inherited.
Some of it is
not guaranteed to get inherited if like one parent has it and one parent doesn't.
It depends. It depends upon the disease.
Social aspect to it, the whole nurture versus nature aspect.
Well, some have a high probability, or some are pretty much only inherited. But some can be inherited or caused by external factors. Like, for example, schizophrenia can be caused by trauma and other events. It can be caused by chemical imbalances. So and it can also be inherited. And if you have schizophrenia, it also tends to you tend to also have bipolarism because they're very closely related.
They're two completely different diseases.
No, actually, by chemical, they actually are very similar. There's actually a few markers they share in common. So if you have one, you have a high probability of getting the other.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that, but I mean, as somebody who's had bipolar since he's been 16 years old, and having been in programs with people who are schizophrenic, and seeing the differences between bipolar people and schizophrenic people, I can definitely tell you there's a lot of differences between the two illnesses.
Oh, sure. I didn't say they were the same disease. I said they share common markers, as in like genetic markers.
Mm-hmm. There's a mouse cat somewhere.
Yeah, it's my cat. He came in here and yelled at me because he wants something.
Well, why aren't you sharing your screen so we can see the cat?
I don't have a camera.
You don't have a camera? What the fuck?
No, not my desktop. I don't.
Excuse me, my phone's ringing from Montana. Hello?
You may want to mute your meeting.
Okay. I'm in the house. It's near the apartments, yeah. Okay.
Let me temporarily mute him. There we go.
Fun.
Oh, I don't know when I went off on the tangent about mental illness. What was I talking about just before then?
Well, I mentioned Kanye being president.
Yeah.
You're talking about how he's anti-vax, anti-abortion.
I don't think Kanye is so stupid as he is crazy.
Yeah.
When you get to be as rich as him, it's called eccentric, apparently.
Oh, dude, that dude's a massive fucking narcissist. There's no question.
Yeah. I would definitely agree with that. I'm gonna let you finish, but what was it? Beyonce had one of the best albums ever.
Well,
cause meltdowns, though. It's kind of amusing.
There is absolutely no doubt in my mind that Kanye is a narcissist. He has got narcissistic personality disorder. That's absolutely no question in my mind.
See, I see myself sitting back on Twitter, diagnosing people based on Wikipedia and what they say on Twitter. This person has supposed to be personality disorder. This person just bipolar. This person has schizophrenic voices talking to his head. Wait for Frank to get back because he has most of the stuff for the show notes.
Yeah. Is there anything else in this world that is kind of, I wouldn't say scaring you, but has you a little maybe concerned in some of the recent events?
Well, monitoring stuff as far as the Wu flu.
Yeah.
Though what matters is people have always been in the stats to whatever they want to say. Because they say, well, up this many tests, we have this many more positives. We're all opening up is totally rooting everything. We must lock everything down. You realize we're also doing more testing, right? Well, I want to know is our death count going up, which I'm about to go look at that.
I believe it is, but I don't know if it's what the rate of increase is. I don't know if it's in line with previous or if it's increased or not.
The riots and such started about the beginning of June, correct?
Yeah, end of May. Let's see, when did Floyd?
All right, I'm back. Sorry about that. Food.
George Floyd died the end of May, so yeah, it was I think around the beginning of June when they.
Beginning about June 6th, it was about maybe May 30th, no June 3rd. Maybe it was about its lowest as far as active cases, and now it has gone back up.
And that has absolutely nothing to do with the Black Lives Matter protests.
Dude, it could have something to do with that, and also could have something to do with the Open Up protest. But personally, I'm looking at the total death count. That's not had a huge spike recently. It looks like it's stayed fairly stable, though we still haven't hit the top of that curve, as far as I can tell.
Yeah, it looked like it's going back up. The curve they're showing it. It's like skyrocketing. The amount of the numbers in New York are going up. It's like
of deaths or people who are diagnosed with it.
People diagnosed with it.
Well, if you go to Google and look at it here, I'm looking at the. They actually have a histograph. You type in COVID-19 death rate, and if you look at deaths for U.S. all regions, all time, I mean, we had the biggest spike was back in the between April and May, and it's actually been decreasing. It's actually starting a small uptick now. It's like it goes up and down every couple days. But we're actually up to 902 as of yesterday.
Yay.
The problem though too is, someone dies from it, they got it in their system. Did they die from the disease or did they die from other factors? And how many deaths were also attributed to it versus other
Each state
causes?
measures those statistics differently.
Oh, yeah, I got a daily death count yesterday of 993 from worldmeters.info.
This one. Oh, yesterday shows 902. So that's pretty close to what I'm saying.
Yeah, they're probably just pulling from slightly different sources. I think this place may tabulate your newspaper reports or something. We definitely had days with far less.
Yeah.
But, the curve doesn't match very well. As far as protests, I think a case rate increase, but that could be because of various things and also the amount of testing we're doing. Now, you said that none of the protests you think will be increasing the infection rate.
Oh, absolutely, it would. I mean, people are getting close proximity to one another. I mean, even if they're wearing masks, all the masks they're wearing don't do shit to keep them from getting sick. It just stops them from transmitting it. And a lot of people I see wearing masks aren't wearing them properly, and they're taking them off for things. So
hanging down below the nose a lot of the time.
yeah.
But you were saying you didn't think it was affecting it.
No, I think it is.
No, not Frank.
Oh, Frank.
I was being sarcastic.
Oh, okay.
So when these contact tracers call people up, they're not allowed to ask them if they've been to any protests. They're allowed to ask them, where have you been for the past couple of days? But they can't say, have you been to any protests? It's like against the rules. They don't want to know.
Oh, well then.
Nice.
All right, in that case. Oh, I've modified a couple things on the front page. Under the announcements, GurCon and BurCon are apparently both canceled for 2020.
Everything's canceled, including you.
People keep trying, and people keep asking, why do people still hire them? Because not everybody's offended by the same things you do, and not everybody believes everything that comes out of a person with a rainbow, Technicolor Richard Spencer haircut. If someone has a Technicolor Richard Spencer haircut, or Richard Spencer haircut generally, you can generally not trust them.
Yeah.
You should generally give them a high amount of doubt.
Yeah, man. So we got I put a shit ton of stuff in the show notes.
Let's get to it then.
I was like looking for stuff, and I kept finding shit and adding more shit. So
ransomware breaches general InfoSec news. TikTok shit. The guy who reverse engineered TikTok reveals the scary things he's learned, advises people stay away from it. Okay, I haven't actually read this, so what all did you find?
Well, the guy took the thing apart, right? He decompiled the APK file completely. He reverse engineered the thing. It's basically Java anyway. So you look through the code, and it's got, obviously data collection services, but it's essentially a data collection service itself that's thinly veiled as a social network, according to him. And there's a shit ton of API information that goes across the wire, and it'll relate to TikTok people, what phone you're on, the hardware specs for it, the IMEI and all that stuff, all the other apps that you've got installed, everything that goes over the phone network related IP wise, it captures. It runs like a PCAP in the background. It will also tell them whether or not you are rooted or jailbroken. It constantly gives them your GPS coordinates every 30 seconds.
Oh, shit.
And it sets up a local proxy server on your device that is for transcoding media, but can also be accessed through remotely. The scariest part is they're logging everything you do remotely, and unless you reverse engineer every one of their native libraries and manually inspect them, this code seems pretty obfuscated. But going through the code, he was able to figure out that it will upload. It will gather files from your phone, zip them up, and upload them remotely. It will also not always use HTTPS. Sometimes shit goes out right over HTTP over the REST API. So you can man in the middle it without having to install cert. It goes on and on, the shit that he's figured out, and
All right.
it's a lot of stuff, but
Basically, it's really uses spyware, and it does have some ability to direct your phone to do things you don't want it to do.
correct. And because of that, not just this guy's analysis, but other people like quote anonymous has been telling people to stop using TikTok. U.S. government is saying they're going to be banning TikTok, but they're not the first government to do that, because this week the Indian government decided to ban not only TikTok but 50 other Chinese apps as well.
Yeah, things are heating up between us and China, but my understanding is it's heating up even more so between India and China.
Yeah,
the two most populous nations in the world.
TikTok was recently used to organize a bunch of people into going to buy tickets for Trump's event that they didn't go to. And TikTok itself is a piece of shit software, but because of that, I think they might kind of be more in the crosshairs.
Hold on just a second. Darren, if you're chewing on something crunchy, move away from the mic just a little bit. Okay.
So the Indian government has done their own reverse engineering work and found that a whole bunch of Chinese apps are sending back a shit ton of information they shouldn't even have access to. Some of these applications were using local privilege escalation bugs to gather even more information from people's phones. All in all, it's a shit show. They banned 50 apps from their different Play stores that were Chinese language focused. I imagine if the U.S. decides to ban TikTok, they'll probably do it from the Play Store and the iOS App Store, which would mean that a lot of people are going to be looking for third-party APK files on sites like APK Pure of TikTok. So now would be a good time for an enterprising young hacker to go and backdoor some TikTok APK files with, say, some Cobalt Strike Beacon and upload them to those sites, so that when it gets banned and all the kids go to download the APK files and they just run them and trust unknown sources, that they can, get a whole bunch of shells. It'll be fun. For research purposes, obviously. It's my take on it. The next thing we have, guacamole. Now, if you don't know what guacamole is, it's
actually I do want to say one other thing about the U.S. government doing it or banning it. How exactly would that look like? Because like I said, some people would find them from pirate sites. Could they somehow force Google, or would Google willingly just say, okay, this one particular app on all the phones that's been installed on in the U.S., can you delete that app? Because can Google even do that remotely on my phone if I have that app?
Identify a unique UUID, and that UUID is usually something like .com, .android, .this, .that, .tiktok, and they could ban that string from allowing installs if they wanted to with an Android update. So they could do that theoretically. Would they do that? Who knows? But they could. I only know this from when I was reverse engineering, trying to get ads off my Kindle, and I looked at all the way to the apps talk to one another and trying to get that shit off there.
In this case, I don't like the idea of government or the corporation reaching out and controlling what's on my phone, but this has me a little bit more iffy. This sounds like the kind of thing that they might want to just force removal. What do you think? Is that overstepping?
I don't know. I mean, look, the app literally sending way more information than any app should be allowed to send back. They're constantly tracking your GPS info. They're doing all these things that, it's not cool. And I think when apps abuse their power like that, yeah, we should ban them. But just banning an app from the app stores is not going to stop people from using it if they can download it somewhere else. And even if Google manages to kill the string that's used for TikTok, and make it so that you can't install the official TikTok APK file, I'm sure people will just modify the APK file to have a different string for the UUID, and then you can install it yourself. You know,
The people
we'll
who
find a way
do
around.
that, not. But then again, you also mentioned someone else is going to upload it to some of these various sites, Pure APK and so forth, and that it's fairly easy to install an AP. Sorry, not
Easily backdoor an APK file. If you just use MSF Venom, you can do it. It's not hard. I think Kennedy wrote a tool that does it as well within set. It might not be in set, but it's out there somewhere. It's not hard to backdoor an APK file.
Okay.
They can install the app and then you install your spyware as well when they install it.
Oh, I do have another thing. This is going off another tangent. What would a war between India and China look like? I don't know much about each's capability. I have a little bit of idea about China's, but very little about India's.
Well, India is a nuclear power. I mean,
They got the bomb.
actually, I don't think China officially does, but curious.
They wouldn't admit to it if they did.
What, China's not? I figured China was a nuclear
Oh, no,
power.
China is. Yeah, that's right. China is. But yeah, so China's got only 290. India's got 104. I'm sorry, 140. I mean, keep in mind their neighbor Pakistan, who they've been on problems with since hundreds of years. Also is so.
How do the Pakistanis
Yeah.
feel about China?
What's that?
How do the Pakistanis feel about China?
I don't really know. I mean, they do share a small border with China. The thing is, too, I mean, if China and India start going at it, Pakistan may take that chance and start hitting their neighbor. So it's hard to say.
Okay. I'm just curious which way loyalties would go.
Yeah.
All right, let's go with the guacamole and some chips.
All right. So Guacamole is a remote desktop program. If you ever bought like a VPS and you want to gain direct console access to that bastard, they're usually going to have Guacamole, and you go onto their site and it opens like a window. I think it's kind of like a Java applet, and it runs this Guacamole session for you, and you get direct access to the console. They do it for Windows boxes as well. It's a product that came out by Apache like a while back, and essentially it's just a way to RDP into stuff, but it's so far been pretty secure. Back in 2015 there were like 4 vulnerabilities for it, but there are only 7s. Nothing RCE so far until now, and now there are several critical reverse RDP vulnerabilities found in the free RDP component built into Guacamole. So it's technically a free RDP vulnerability, but because it's integrated into Guacamole, it is a Guacamole vulnerability, if that makes sense. In the article, if you open it up and check it out, they do a short demo video showing how you can gain RCE on a computer running a Guacamole server. The employee essentially uses his browser, the Guacamole server, selects one of the supported protocols, uses an open source client to connect to the protocol. Once connected, Guacamole acts as the middleman, relaying events back and forth from the chosen computer. And you can do a reverse attack scenario where a compromised machine inside a corporate network will leverage the incoming benign connection to attack the gateway, aiming to take it over. Or a malicious worker scenario where a rogue employee uses the computer inside the network to leverage his holds on both ends of the connection and take control of the gateway. They've patched it, but the article goes into, do we really need somebody to make it a 0-day for this? Obviously, the answer is always yes to that question, because we like 0 days. They're fun. There's also an information disclosure vulnerability, like a couple of them. Bunch of old other things. And it's a buffer overflow in free RDP when you go down further within the stream wrapper, which is all good shit. But yeah, there's a vulnerability in Guacamole. So if you use that for letting your employees gain remote access to your systems, you should probably patch that. Next, we're going to go to some consumer hardware that a lot of people own that they do not go and regularly apply patches to, which is the Netgear RCE. And there are 79 models. Let me get my screen shared here. Share my screen.
Is on.
Hopefully I don't have any porn up. Okay, share screen. Where's the button? Oh, it's Charles. Charles is here. Yay, Charles. Okay, you guys see my screen here? 79 router models risk full takeover due to unpatched bug. There is an O-Day. O-Days are fun. In 79 Netgear models that allow the attacker to take full control over the vulnerable devices remotely. It was independently discovered by Adam Nichols of Grim and Darkness from Vietnam's VNPTISC. It lies in the HTTP daemon used to manage the router. Why that's exposed to the WAN, I do not know, but it is. And because it is, it does not check the length of the data supplied by the user appropriately, so it allows an attacker to do a buffer overflow when the data is copied to a fixed length variable. This will allow an attacker to create a specifically crafted string that will execute commands on the router without needing to be authenticated. Now, how hard would it be to say, go to Shodan and look for these 79 routers? Probably not very hard. There's even a script they've written here to find these vulnerable routers on your own, doing some scanning on the internet, which is all fun stuff. So these kind of attacks are difficult because a lot of consumer grade people, that's not a thing. A lot of people will buy a router, they throw it up on their network, and they never ever look at it again. So, as you know, if you like futzing with routers, you can go into them, and there's usually an ability to upload new firmware that you can download from the manufacturer's site, but very few routers actually implement like an auto update feature. So this is going to allow a lot of access to a lot of people's networks remotely, and I'm sure at some point will probably be incorporated into one of those IoT botnets. So it should be fun. Thoughts?
Yeah, I don't check the patches enough on some of my equipment. Then again, a lot of times
I'm making sure you don't have a Netgear router.
no, I don't have one of those. No, mine's a TP link. Now you know more about me than you really need to know.
Yeah, mine is, I think, a Buffalo air station, and I took the firmware that was on there and I replaced it with DDWRT, which probably has vulnerabilities in it, but I think it's a little more secure than consumer grade shit. Next, we have this article from ZDNet. Thief Quest, also called Evil Quest, ransomware victims now can get their data back for free without needing to pay the ransom. Awesome. Love when companies do this. SentinelOne has created a free decryptor app that can help victims of the Thief Quest ransomware recover their files. It is a Mac, targets Mac users, so it's not like a Windows malware, which most, I think, are. But anyway, you can get your shit back if you've been infected by this, which is awesome for a lot of people who probably couldn't afford to pay the ransom. And now that's good. If you remember, like 4 weeks ago, we were talking about energy giant EDP, who had a whole bunch of their systems go down, but they were refusing to admit that they had ransomware issues. And now they're confirming that they were hit with the Ragnar Locker ransomware and had 10 terabytes of data exfiltrated. I guess they didn't have a choice in telling people if the 10 terabytes were exfiltrated and they're auctioning it off, right? Don't really need to go too much into that article. Just moving down to letter F here. Ransomware characteristics and attack chains. What you need to know about recent campaigns. That is a good article. I skimmed through this earlier, and if you look at just even the pictures that are in here, it's good. It's very short, but it's good. So Cobalt Strike is being used more and more by bad actors, despite costing $3,500 because it's fairly easy to crack. And they use crack copies of it for their C2. If you look, I do a new Windows shortcut key. Let's see how it works. You go here, and I think it's Windows key up. No, Windows key plus. There it is. Woo! All right, so there's the the payload diagram here. So it talks about how a lot of the time now, the initial vector of an infection is just brute forcing RDP that's exposed to the internet. It happens a lot, and it's a lot of big corporations that do this. They don't take InfoSec seriously, and they don't put RDP behind like a VPN first. They just put RDP straight to the internet, and script kiddies get through, or real bad actors get through, and now they're in there. They're in the network, and it's not always RDP. It can also be vulnerable internet-facing systems or a weak app design. But they're in now, and now it's time to do credential theft. So of course they're going to turn to the old reliable Mimikatz or LSA secrets, or even just checking the credential vault, looking for plain text shit or abuse of service accounts. That's a good one. To elevate privileges, also looking for abusing service accounts. Then they do some lateral movement because they've got some creds. Cobalt Strike makes this fairly easy. If you want to get more difficult, you could use PS exec and do a command line. Go computer to computer. Now that you've got a foothold and a couple footholds, maybe you're going to establish some persistence. Persistence can be done by making a new account or some GPO changes, some shadow IT tools, which are I love that term, shadow IT. Anyway, scheduled tasks is a common one. WMI, which is not in there, but is a good common persistence method, and service registration. And then they drop the payload. It could be Robinhood, Maze, Pony Final, Valet Loader, Revel, or Netwalker. But it's the same thing over and over again. The same techniques, because companies just don't learn. They don't secure their shit, and they keep getting hacked, and they get ransomware. Is that a word, ransomware? Can I use that?
I think I'll allow it. Yes.
Okay. So, decent article. And as we know, also, besides, that's the wrong link. That's not what I want. Anyway, the next thing we're going to talk about is ransomware via phishing is on the rise, and my link for that does not work. So I'm just going to Google the title and see if I find an article on it and go to that article. All right, so ransomware attacks are on the rise again. They're always on the rise again, but they're on the rise again. So malicious payloads and phishing messages. How do you prevent phishing messages from getting through to your people? There's spam filtering and all that shit, but stuff's still going to get through. How do you make sure your user doesn't click on it? Well, I think the big part of that is user education. But even now, some ransomware groups are doing some really nasty shit where they will pose as somebody your person normally talks to and then send them something. So we'll get on there's more about that later in another article. But some people at Proofpoint have seen a rise in ransomware attacks being distributed by email. One from a ransomware that hasn't been active in years, where crooks are sending out hundreds of thousands of messages every day. It's a numbers game. If you send out 10 messages, maybe nobody's going to click on them. But if you send out like 100,000 messages, or at least one or two people are going to click on it, So it's a numbers game, just like dating. Just keep asking girls out till somebody says yes. Abaddon uses a somewhat basic technique as a lure, with subject lines claiming to relate to a photo of the victim, preying on a potential vanity or insecurity that the victim may have. Once the attachment is open, it downloads Avedon using PowerShell. And then they want $800 in Bitcoin for special software to decrypt your hard drive. Ransomware as a service. Now, this is the big thing now. Ransomware as a service is how these bad guys operate. It's not these super technical hackers who know what the hell they're doing. It's a bunch of guys who went and bought access to a program, and then they use that program to get access to people's shit, and then they encrypt it, and they ask for money. These are like common criminals, not like actual IT people turned bad or hacker type criminals. These are just regular people who went and they bought a program that lets you essentially hack other people's shit via RDP or via spamming people or whatever other method they decide to use. And then they gain access to systems and then they make money. It's a money-making scheme. It's like that Zelda game. Let's play money-making game, you know? Keep making money. Victims are going to click this ransomware. It's going to install. Some of the ransomware asks for like $100. Some of it asks for $800. Philadelphia asks for like $200. There's all different ransomware that asks for all different amounts of money. But this is common ransomware, right? And then you get like the specialized ransomware that specific groups use. And these specific groups, these apps, they don't use this run-of-the-mill type ransomware. They will get access to your systems however they do it. And once they're in there, they're going to hang around for a while. They're going to learn as much as they can, and then they're going to hit you for the maximum amount of money they can think they'll get from you. And it can be in the millions of dollars if you're a big corporation. So that's all I have to say about that. Next, UCSF pays the ransomware of $1.4 million to NetWalker. $1.4 million. Can you imagine that? You hack somebody's shit and they have to pay you $1.4 million to get access back to their stuff.
Sounds like a pretty penny.
That sounds like easy money to me, especially if it's an unskilled ransomware attack where it's like, you know, they got somebody to click a fish and then they got in and just poof, everything. But NetWalker threat actors have followed the path of the Maze ransomware group. They initially gained a foothold into a victim's network. They move laterally through the network, looking for vulnerable devices and steal any vulnerable information they can before they launch the ransomware payload. Researchers have warned that NetWalker has expanded its operations to a ransomware as a service model. Like I was talking about before, you don't need to be a smart computer hacker to get into systems. You just need to have some startup capital and no ethics, and you can make tons of money. So 1.4 million from them. Adrian is editing the next one.
No, I'm not editing so much. I've just moved something up a line.
All right. Manufacturing sector paid out 62% of ransomware payments in 2019. Might be a good sector to hit if you're a ransomware person, right? They pay out 62%.
I wouldn't think this would be the end user systems where people are likely to download shit and run stupid shit.
No, they might get in that way though. So they might get a foothold by some end user downloading some stupid shit and running it.
I was just saying, a lot of computer systems controlling manufacturing equipment go a long time without being updated.
Yeah, well, if you're looking at like a segmented network that, like an IoT or a SCADA network that is only used for manufacturing shit and it's not ever supposed to be on the internet, even those things, sometimes there are pivots, like a machine that's got two NIC cards and one is on the network for the SCADA stuff and the other one is on the actual internet. And if an attacker gets on that machine and they can pivot into the other network, it's just as if that was on the internet itself. You know, they've got a route right to it. So they were talking about a large manufacturer that does petroleum products and all sorts of stuff on Darknet Diaries a while back, and he went really deep into how they got into this manufacturing place in an Arab country. I forget which one, and how they were able to actually get so deep that they got into the SCADA type network, and they set the systems that monitor the stuff for like critical shit's going to go bad. You know, like this is the stop the shit from hitting the fan type system, and they infected that system itself with custom written malware that was just written for that system, which means they had to get that system some like their own copy of that hardware and use that to make the malware. So they were in there long enough to be able to go and actually buy an industrial controller, figure out how to fuck with it, and then fuck with it. And they caused like all of the manufacturing to come to a halt in that place for days. And then these two guys had to fly in from like Philadelphia and go and completely figure out what the hell is going on and do a full DFIR engagement. It's a good listen. You should listen to it. Anyway, I got off topic there. I always do that. So the next thing we've got, Citrix is patching stuff again. They're always patching stuff. That ADC stuff a while back was horrible. It allowed people to get right in there. And I think, David Kennedy put out a patch for it. Not a patch, a POC for it the same day that another company released code for it, because he wasn't going to be the first one to do that for security reasons, get sued and stuff. But again, the ADC is in the news, as well as their SD-WAN optimization edition. You can exploit these things, and it will let an unauthenticated remote attacker perform code injection, information disclosure, and DDoS attack against the gateway, or authentication with virtual servers. That's good. So yet again, there's something that leads to RCE in this product. And if you're using ADC, otherwise known as NetScaler, your security team is going to be having no fun trying to patch this stuff constantly. It keeps happening. Anyway, what do I know? I know nothing. The next thing, Google is releasing Tsunami. Tsunami is a vuln scanner. It is supposedly a very good vuln scanner that works on very large networks very quickly. And they've made it available on GitHub last month, but they are not officially calling it a Google product as an open source project. It's being okay, Google, I didn't ask for you. Shut up. So
sure, I can do that.
Okay.
You too.
I have a Google Spy device in my immediate vicinity.
Nice. So they're releasing it as an open source project with open source community support, where it's not going to be like an official Microsoft product where they officially support it. It's the same model that they used on Kubernetes, which is a Docker tool that I don't know how to use. I'm
interested to see how this goes, but man, it has to be a lot of work to write all the different plugins.
It's like a Nessus type scanner, and they're releasing it for free.
So
badass.
Yeah, it does sound good. I was wondering what's detection, how good it is.
Yeah, and also if it is good, I mean, what's that going to do to other tools like, for example, Nessus or Rapid7 or all the other security, Qualys, all the other security scanners out there? How is that going to affect them? I mean, right. I think Nessus is still free for non-commercial use, right?
For like 12 computers.
Yeah.
More than that, they want you to buy a commercial license.
Right. Okay. But I mean, yeah, it's obvious if you're deploying this, any kind of software like this, you've got more than 12 computers you're running it on.
Yeah. So. You can get a nice scan of your home network, though. See what's possible.
But I mean, that's pretty impressive. I mean,
It's nice.
gotta wonder what it's gonna do. What it's gonna do for the market. I mean, is Google trying to buy that market out too because they introduced a new product and kill their competition with it?
You never know.
Eh.
Maybe they'll work on the freemium model. Have like plugins that cost money.
Have you actually tried to run it before?
Do what?
You actually downloaded and played with it yet?
Not yet. I told some of my colleagues about it. One of them downloaded it, started playing with it, said it looks really cool.
I'll take a look at it.
I have not personally played with it
I
yet.
just really did this like OpenVAS and the Greenbone security assistant. I mean, so many things aren't where I would expect things to be, and if you have an error, it doesn't necessarily tell you in the web interface. You got to go find which particular log file it is, and it should be able to send me emails, but something is not configured right. I need to figure out how to make it send me emails because there's some other components missing, but it doesn't tell me anything but error. So there's some log file someplace that probably says something like SendMail didn't start properly or something like that.
Fix SendMail.
I mean, looking at the article, yeah, it says it uses open source tools such as Incrack to detect weak passwords. So it sounds like a lot of this is built with open source stuff. So I mean, that's pretty impressive that they're making it open source, transparent. I mean, that's kind of a deviation from Google. I know they do a lot of stuff that's based on open source, so they closed source it or partially open source it. So
yeah, I mean it's a big thing.
Yeah.
A lot of companies want to get a phone scan, and they'll pay like a security company to come in and run it for them. And essentially, the security company, all they do is they come in and they run Nessus Professional.
Yeah.
And they export the report. And they put their logo on it. They say, here you go. And they charge them 5 times what they should.
And then you get a sysadmin like me who has to look at that report and go, no, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. No, it's a false report. Here's why it's a false report. No, that's wrong. No, that's wrong. You got fucked. Because just running a scan doesn't mean shit unless you know how to interpret it.
Very true. So next, while I eat my sandwich and talk with my mouth full, the Department of Justice has indicted a hacker known as FXMSP from Kazakhstan for hacking into and selling access to over 300 organizations. This dude would hack shit and then not do anything with it and just keep like an open shell and be like, hey, who wants access to this network? Give me money and I'm going to give you a shell. Interesting business model. He used the alias FXMSP. His real name is Andriy Turkin, and they think he's been captured in Kazakhstan and is going to be extradited to the United States to face charges. This guy would use Trojans, off-the-shelf shit, infect systems, and then charge access for it, which I guess is a decent business model. Not an ethical one, but probably pretty profitable. Some systems he sold for over $100,000. Access to them anyway. He had a website on Tor, and he would list what he had access to and start the bidding. And he also sold access to some pretty well-known antivirus companies, which is cool. They're not telling us which ones in the article, but he claimed to breach Trend Micro, Symantec, and McAfee. He also claims to have stolen the source code from 3 vendors and has access to over 30 terabytes of stuff that was stolen from the Trend Micro network. You'd think they would have basic exfiltration, like monitoring, like, hey, is a whole shit ton of data going out that doesn't normally go out, at least some kind of check on these networks. But I mean, you don't even have to have like a full-blown SOC. Just have like Bro running and generate some reports like, hey, you're uploading 5 times what you normally upload on an average day.
Now, it's no longer called Bro, it's called Zeke.
Fuck, it's stupid.
And if you question that, you're an insecure cis white man.
Yeah. Anyway,
the wisdom of changing the name. Like, oh,
everyone knows it as Bro, and now it's called Zeke. But if you look in the source code for Zeke, it's often referred to as Bro, despite being called Zeke. So there's that.
it's a race to the bottom to make the most sensitive people in society happy.
How about we say we call it bro, we just call it bruh. There you go.
Bruh.
What's up, bro? I mean, I see men bad mouthing like bro culture or people being bros, and I'm like, how pathetic are you? Bro is not necessarily a bad thing. I'd say in most cases it's not. So I'm taking some pansies I've seen on Twitter. Continue. Sorry.
Term, you're not allowed to use gendered terms because they're discriminatory. Like, for instance, it's not a man cover, it's a person cover. Manhole cover, person hole cover.
Mm.
Anyway, it's fun stuff. The more and more this shit happens, the more and more people decide they're no longer want to be involved in identity politics.
You would hope, but no, there's some people would be there to the end because some people make money off of it.
That's true.
Okay.
Like corporate trainers, they come in and they tell you what's PC to say at work, and what's not okay to say at work.
Yeah, companies do that to cover their ass in case they get sued for something later on and say, well, no, we had training. It wasn't our fault. We had training. That particular person just didn't follow through with it.
Yeah. I think Timcast was talking about that earlier today.
Sorry, I'm derailing things.
You're allowed to derail things. It's your
Yay. So are we still on Kazakhstan?
We're going to move past that. And we have next Frida, which is, we were talking about Google releasing free shit. Well, now Microsoft's releasing free shit. And that free shit is not even for Windows, it's for Linux. So Mike Walker, who is the Senior Director of New Security Ventures at Microsoft, and that sounds like a totally made-up title, stated that Project Frida is a roadmap towards trusted sending for the cloud that can allow enterprises to engage in regular complete discovery sweeps for undetected malware. So it's a malware detection tool for Linux. Essentially, it's got a whole bunch of data sets that have been collected to match signatures that have been used already by many different attack groups, and the data set is free. The tool is free. If you want to install Microsoft stuff on your Linux box, be my guest. I'm sure nothing bad will happen. It'll be fine. Everything will work perfectly. There will not be dependency issues. And it supports 4,000 kernel versions, apparently, which is a lot of kernel versions. And if it doesn't support your kernel version, you can take an attempt to build it from source. Building your kernel from source. That's always a super good idea and will work perfectly with no dependency issues.
I'm trying to remember the last time I actually built a kernel from source was. I think, that was like 2009 maybe. Like I had to build one for as part of an experiment or part of a test. Like that's it. No one does it anymore because there's no point to it.
Right. I have a problem with the program not being able to recognize my kernel because I'd installed the open virtualization drivers, which changed the kernel version for some reason. And that was fun. Kernel stuff's always fun. Anyway, this tool finds potential rootkits and open files, and we'll look at debug. We'll debug. Has the ability to include debugged processes and kernel calls. Look all through your shit for rootkits. It will let you know what potential rootkits there are, how they're activated, where they are. And it can also generate a nice little report in JSON format that can then be imported into some other tools that might even be able to remove the shit for you. And the dashboard will also allow you to upload virtual machine images in the ELF core dump of physical memory and Lime image. I've never heard of an ELF core dump of physical memory before, but I imagine it's a thing and probably related to DFIR. It also supports Lime and raw physical dumps and VMRS. Once submitted, Project Freda will perform the analysis on the image and list any discovered rootkits. Of course, in a real-time, large-scale cloud operation, tasks like uploading VM snapshots and analyzing detailed reports needs to be done in bulk. So that's why they've also open-sourced the Freda API, which makes it possible to do bulk stuff, such as analysis, as well as putting all this stuff on GitHub for people to look at and comment on and complain about and say you need to fix this, and then have that ignored for 6 months, and then some rando fixes it because things. All right, I'm babbling. Sorry. Inadequate security policies lead to Life Labs data breach of 15 million patients. So 2019, there was this breach. They didn't know how bad it was. Hired a DFIR company to come in and tell them how bad the breach was. Apparently, it was very bad. It led to 15 million patient records being exposed. They're a Canadian company, and the audit findings can shed light on key areas that U.S. providers can focus on to bolster their own security programs. Because that's the whole point of putting these reports out and making them public, is so that you can read them and figure out what you're doing wrong and stop doing that. A lot of companies will not release these reports also once they've been completed, because they keep them for themselves. And they want people to know where they were vulnerable. So they might still be vulnerable and they might not have fixed that. Life Labs needs to clarify the terms under which it provides laboratory services to other health information entities. The commissioners ordered Life Labs to improve specific practices for its IT security, including formally putting into place written IT security practices and policies. You should already have written IT security practices and policies. If you're a big company, that should be a given. You shouldn't have to make those things up. So, more on the report has not apparently, like I thought before by reading the article, been published. But Life Labs essentially is going to court trying to get a ruling stating that the information is privileged and confidential that's in this report. And companies do not want these reports getting out. Some companies will put them out because they're cool. And I am just talking about stuff and buying time until I can read the next article. All right. Next, we have Lenovo NASes. So, what is a NAS? A NAS is a network attached storage device. It's like hard drive or a bunch of hard drives in a box that you plug into your network, and then you do a Windows share most of the time, unless you're a Linux guy, in which case you do a Cisco share, and you go and you access that data. And some of them also have the ability to let you access your shit remotely by popping open a port in the firewall and letting you have web-based access to your NAS. So, if you don't know what a NAS is, that's what it is. So a hacker group going by the name Cloud Security, which is pretty funny, is breaking into Lenovo EMCs, which used to be called iOmega. If you remember iOmega, they used to make zip and jazz drives.
Oh yeah, I remember those.
Those were cool. So they are going into these NAS devices. They are wiping all the files, just deleting them completely, and then leaving a ransomware note behind, asking for between $200 and $275 to get the data back.
Nice of them.
So they're not even doing ransomware. They're just stealing your shit and saying, you want your shit back? Give us money. It's like a less evolved version of ransomware. So attacks have been happening for about a month. A website called Bitcoin Abuse is a portal where people can report Bitcoin addresses abused in ransomware cases and extortion and cybercrime and stuff. They see the activities going on about a month in this wallet. Attacks have been targeted only on the specific Lenovo EMC / Iomega NAS device, which exposes their management interface to the internet without a password. Yeah. Why would you want to put a password on that, right? ZDNet was able to identify about 1,000 devices like this using a Shodan search, which is also probably how the bad guys identified these devices. So they leave a single text file. It just says recover your files, ! Dot text. And all ransomware notes are signed with the cloud security Mongear. And ask you to email them at cloud@mail2pay.com. I wonder if mail2pay.com is a legitimate email service that is used by professionals. Probably not. The recent ransomware attacks recorded over the past month seem to be a continuation of attacks that started last year and have targeted exclusively Lenovo EMC, formerly Iomega products. So my money is this guy either has a vulnerability for this that he developed himself, or maybe he bought one, or maybe it's just a commercial vulnerability that's been out there for a while that nobody's patched. Regardless, guys just going around and deleting people's shit. I wonder if he even bothers to actually transfer like 600 gigs of shit off their network before putting the ransomware note there, or if he just deletes their shit and says, pay me and get it back, and then doesn't give them their shit back because it's really just deleted. That'd be really horrible if he did that. You don't know. So on a phone call today, Victor Gevers, who is a security researcher at GDI Foundation, told the ZDNet people who wrote this article that he has been tracking the attacks for years and that these recent intrusions seem to be the work of an unsophisticated hacker. Well, no shit, Sherlock. He said the hackers don't rely on a complex exploit, targeting devices that were already wide open on the internet and didn't bother encrypting their data. So I don't know why they needed to get an expert to tell them what they already said in the article earlier, but apparently they needed to confirm that with an expert. These devices have been around for a really long time, and they've been since 1998. These freaking NAS devices have been around for Iomega. It's like the Novo EMC. Why would you still have that on your network? They don't even make it anymore. It's obviously end of life, but there are still thousands of them out there online. Open access to the internet. You know what I would do if I were a bad guy is I would not leverage this attack to steal data from the NAS, but instead make the NAS a pivot into the rest of the network and then go into the rest of the network and look for some really good shit and then ransomware them. Just buy like one of those exploit kits and be like, yeah, here's the ransomware. Enjoy that. Theoretically, obviously. So next we have new Mac is not a thing. Mac ransomware includes data exfiltration. Free data exfiltration with your ransomware rolled into one. Buy your My Exploit kit now because it's got everything. All right. There has, unsurprisingly, been a great deal of interest in the news about this new Mac OS threat. It's got some really interesting capabilities for some ransomware, and this malware researcher, Dinesh Devadas, I wonder if he's friends with Vivek Manchurian, This threat has been receiving intense scrutiny from security researchers, with excellent work done by Scott Knight and Patrick Wardle and a bunch of people at Sentinel Labs who you've never heard of. They've brought some up to the minute, up to speed stuff on this. It's got many names. It's called Evil Quest, Thief Quest, or MacRansom.k, depending on which antivirus program you check it in. And if you upload a sample to Virus Total, it will have different names because everything has different names when you upload it to Virus Total. While Mac.ransomware.k does not conform to a recognized convention, it's problematic because the threat is not only and perhaps not even primarily a ransomware threat. Malware authors on all platforms are increasingly reusing code to provide multiple features. Classifying the threat type making it hard to classify that shit. Code reuse is a thing even amongst malware authors. They're like, this code works. Why fix it? It's good. I'm just gonna throw this into my shit. I don't need to rewrite a function. Function works. A good malware naming convention would ideally group malware samples by common characteristics. So far, there's that C-string literal total. I can't even say that. There's another one I can't say. Anyway.
I think we should name malware after where we find it. MIT AI Lab or whatever.
I think we should name malware after leftist groups.
Okay.
Some interesting reverse strings found in here: Naughty Cuckoo, Keylogger, File Watcher, Effective Idiot. So that's interesting. Effective Idiot developers chose to forego that option of using a symmetric key and instead use okay. I have not read this far down in the article before, so I don't know what I'm reading yet, and I can't relay what the heck it's talking about. But ransomware seems pretty bulletproof. The ransomware operator, if they get this shit on your system as a Mac, you're either paying that ransom or you're wiping your Mac, because this thing is pretty good. And not only is it going to encrypt all your files, but it's also going to exfiltrate a copy of all your important data so that they can auction that shit off to other people who are willing to pay for it if you don't pay, and sometimes even if you do pay. And that's that article pretty much in a nutshell. And I probably got some shit wrong in there because, like I said, I didn't read the whole thing. And that ends the regular show notes. Next, we have other shit, and we've got two things in other shit. So these are not necessarily security specific things, but IT related interesting type shit. So the first one is Google Chrome adds a new feature to drastically improve battery life on laptops. In other words, it's going to stop sucking all your CPU all the time. No.
According to the article, it should be more efficient on all devices, although probably I'm assuming it's going to have more effect on your desktop and your laptop than, let's say, your phone. What exactly? It's like I have a JavaScript something going on in Chrome on my phone. What is actually happening when I shut my phone off? Not off, but I mean screens off and so forth.
All right. So what I'm seeing here, right, is there's this flag called intensive wake-up throttling. It's built into Canary 86. It's got throttling timers in the background, and when it's toggled on, it will begin automatically throttling JavaScript timers in all background tabs, directly impacting the app's battery usage, according to developers. So there is another application. There's a Chrome extension I used to use on my laptop because I had no memory in that sucker. And it would take your tab, and any tabs that you have backgrounded, it would just turn into a screenshot of the tab. until you clicked on the tab again, and then it would just reload the page. Sometimes annoying, but I think it's a similar kind of thing they're doing here, where they're turning off JavaScript on pages that you're not using until you actually have them in focus. So kind of seems like a good idea. I mean, it would also probably stop a lot of those Bitcoin miners that run in web pages. Not necessarily Bitcoin, sometimes Monero, but I mean, like crypto miners that are like in the JavaScript of web pages, like on the piratebay.org. So background wake-ups are already limited in Chrome to 1 second and 1% of CPU, but the new feature aims to limit JavaScript timers to one single wake-up per minute in pages hidden for 5 minutes. So if you've got a million tabs open, like I do right now, it would not affect performance as much, and you could go and do other things on your laptop besides having a browser open, and that would be awesome if you have like a 4 gig laptop from like 10 years ago, which some of us do because we have the money. But I have money. I don't shit. So that's that. It's a cool feature. And last but not least, we don't actually have to go through all of this because it's a lot. But this is a ransomware rewind article about all the most big ransomwares that have happened so far in 2020. The biggest attack so far, essentially. And here is the, I hate when the article links to the article. It's like, here's a summary of our article. Click here to get the full article. And then the rest of it's gone. Where the hell's the rest? Oh, great. We're doing split pages here. This shit drives me freaking insane when companies do this and you have like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 different freaking pages to load up your article instead of just putting it all on one page. That drives me nuts. Anyway, two of the most costly ransomware attacks impacting industrial companies based in continental Europe, with 6 remaining incidents striking governments, 1 impacting a county government, a whopping collection of cities and towns. Several healthcare firms were also hit with ransomware, and ransomware amounts tended to be smaller, and mitigation costs were not disclosed. Oftentimes, like, they'll ask for 500 grand, but your cost of recovery is going to be like 10 times that to secure all your shit, fix what was wrong in the first place, figure out what they stole. And load the next page. All right, Albany, New York. Recovery and mitigation cost 300 grand. Albany IT systems were infiltrated on March 30th. That's my birthday. With hackers demanding payment in cryptocurrency to recover files they had encrypted. City officials immediately shut down the affected systems, and they didn't have to worry about the hackers constantly changing ransomware demands, since Albany had backups of its critical shit, according to the administration. Having a daily backup of those mission-critical systems meant Albany never lost the ability to pay its employees or yada, yada, yada. It wasn't that bad for them because they had backups. Have backups. And if you have backups, do it right and use the 3-2-1 rule so that they don't encrypt your backups and then leave you with your pants down, which happens a lot. They get in there. They hack all your shit. They exfiltrate your data, and then they wipe your backups. Because why wouldn't you? Next one, Jackson County, Georgia. Recovery and mitigation cost 400 grand. This was a Ryuk attack in early March, and it locked nearly all of Jackson County agencies out of their systems, forcing many to carry out operations on paper. Paper, what's that? It impacted county law enforcement, resulting in computer screens at the 911 dispatch center going dark. That's terrifying. County jail staff were also unable to open or close cell doors. Sorry. That's funny to me for some reason. and sheriff deputies losing the ability to use laptops to look up license plates. As a result, guards had to go into cell blocks to open doors and escort inmates to family visits, which increased the risk to the guards, according to the sheriff's office. Yada, yada, yada. It was very inconvenient for everybody, and that's their mitigation costs. $400,000 to fix that. All right, $460,000 to fix Lake City, Florida, which was a triple threat Ryuk ransomware attack in June that disabled the city's servers, their phones as well, prompting the city leaders to unanimously agree to pay the hackers $460,000 in Bitcoin to unlock their shit. But all but $10,000 of that amount would be picked up by the city's cyber insurance provider. And city manager Joe Heffenberg expected the city to make a full recovery 2 weeks. It's only be 2 weeks. However, the ransomware affected everything but their police and fire departments, which were thankfully on a separate server. The city had run into trouble attempting to recover the backups that were deleted during the incident. If you've ever gotten a decryptor for ransomware, it takes a very long time even to recover completely all the files on one computer, let alone your entire infrastructure, right? So not easy. They paid, they got their shit back. It just took a while to fix it. It would have cost 3 times as much for them to not pay it, so they paid it. A lot of these places.
We're gonna go through all of these.
What?
We're gonna go through all of these.
There's only 11 of them, and we're on 7.
Oh, okay.
New Bedford, Massachusetts. They were hit with Ryuk. It affected 158 of the city's 3,532 desktops. It encrypted data on their servers, their workstations, and they asked for $5.3 million to get their shit back. They countered with an offer for $400,000. The attacker said, "Fuck that shit," and went on, and they tried to restore their stuff from backups. They didn't have that many systems that were infected, so it wasn't that bad of an impact. They hit in the middle of the night when most of the shit was off. So the insurance company spent hundreds of grands recovering from the ransomware attack. City expects about $1 million in cybersecurity insurance policy would cover the cost. So good for them having that insurance. Riviera, Florida cost $1.5 million. May 29th, after the police department opened an email, knocked the city's systems out offline, including email, phone, water, utility pump stations. I wonder how they were able, right after opening an email, to do all that shit. You normally have to be in there for a while to figure out how to do all that shit. The city was only able to accept utility payments in person because their systems were down. They authorized spending on more than $900,000 to buy new computer hardware and moving purchases. They bought some cybersecurity insurance, and they got back up and running. And then they paid the hackers $592,000 in Bitcoin, hoping to recover some of the access to data that was encrypted weeks earlier. Although paying the ransom is not advised, it sometimes needs to be done to get your shit back. And last but not least, we got one more. New Orleans, or Nolans, or how do you say it, Adrian?
Nolans.
A Nolans was made aware of a ransomware attack on December 13th after an employee clicked on a link in a phishing email and then provided their credentials, resulting in a large volume of phishing emails showing up in the city system. Those behind the attacks are believed to have used Ryuk, a piece of malware discovered 16 months ago, yada, 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 used in Eastern Europe and Russia. About 10% of the city's 450 servers and more than 3,500 laptops had been re-imaged in 5 days after the attack. I would hate to be that IT guy, right? Reimage 450 servers and 3,500 laptops. Hopefully, you're not doing it one at a time. Maybe Ghostcast, when that was a thing, right? Remember Ghostcast? Wasn't that awesome?
Yes, I remember using that a lot back when I was.
Shoot all those computers. Like, that was awesome shit. They don't have that in a lot of the new products. It's like one at a time. Ghostcast was cool. Cantrell told WWL-TV that she expected the cost of the attack would exceed $3 million of their cybersecurity insurance policy, and she would seek to increase the policy to $10 million next year. Yes, let's pay the insurance company rather than pay to fix the security issues. That way, when they hack it again, you could just pay them again, right? And very last page, which I think is one more article. Last one, Texas. I think it's the last one. Anyway, Texas, it cost them $12 million. It was a coordinated ransomware attack that hit 22 towns using the Revil ransomware to lock the municipalities out of their IT systems after hackers breached the software of a third-party service provider used to remotely manage their infrastructure. So this was an MSP attack, which are always fun because they've got access to 22 towns. So let's just hit all those towns at once, right? Because they're connected through the MSP. All the affected towns transitioned from assessment to remediation and recovery by a week after the attack, but more than half of the remaining normal operations, according to the Texas Department of Information Resources, they declined to release the names of the affected cities, with only Keene and Borger initially indicating that they were actually victims of the attack. Of the total cost associated with the ransomware, $3.25 million was expected to be incurred by the county governments, $2.34 million expected to be incurred by the cities and towns, and $1.8 million incurred by educational facilities. That's a lot of moolah. Like a lot of moolah. $12 million. And that's all of them except Baltimore, which is, I guess, the last one, unless this list just goes on freaking forever. Baltimore's computer systems were breached May 7th, $18.2 million. City leaders were present at the time. There was a demand for $76,000 in exchange for a decryption key. They were threatened with the destruction of their data if their ransomware wasn't met. As a result, the city experienced a loss or delay of $8.2 million in revenue from fines, property taxes, real estate fees, all that kind of shit that they would normally use computers to get the money. They had to spend $2.8 million on forensic analysis and $1.9 million on new hardware and software, and $600,000 to deploy new systems. They never mentioned setting up an MSSP after that. That should be like the biggest one. This is article number 10, so this should be the last one. Norsk Hydro, $60 million, damn, to $71 million. Shit. So this is an aluminum provider in Norway, and they were. Why would an aluminum provider be called Hydro? Anyway, they were hit with a large ransomware attack, which started in their U.S. facilities and then spread, and the company couldn't stabilize their situation. The ransomware strain ultimately determined to be Lakar Goga, which has wreaked havoc on companies in industrial and manufacturing space. They restored their systems from backups rather than paying the ransomware and switched to manual mode inside several facilities, which a lot of places don't have anymore. There is no manual mode. If the computers go down, you're effed. But luckily, they had a manual mode. 60 to 71 million to fix their shit. That's a lot of money that they lost because of that ransomware attack. And that is number 10 on the list of top 10. So, as Adrian would be probably very happy, I don't have to read any more of this stuff. And we can talk for a few minutes and then end the cast, because that's what we do when we run out of the show notes.
Cool beans. Thank you for doing most all the work.
I'm trying. So that's the show notes. And what else do we have to talk about?
Not a whole lot. I'm about to go after this is over with. I'm going to go get some Taco Bell. Did I just screw up the last one line? I know it ended with a dash. Oh, it worked. Okay. I thought it ended with a dash, and that seemed weird. Frank, have you ever watched the Phantasm movies?
I am not. What are they about?
Oh, great! I can't describe it. That's why I was asked both of you earlier. Well, actually, you weren't on yet, Frank. I asked Darren earlier. Essentially, it's about this extra dimensional funeral home director who kills people and turns them into little midgets, but he also turns them into these flying balls with blades on them. And this one guy might be, who's a protagonist from the very beginning, may be one of the same species, but it's not quite clear yet. And it's a brain fuck, man. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Yeah, some aspects of a zombie film, some of an alien film, some of a whatever extra dimensional horror you call that, because occasionally they seem to go off into another dimension. A fair amount of gore, all things considered, though. Most of the movies were made in the well, the first one I think was 79, then I think the next one was like 88. By that time, the MPAA was pretty damn strict on how much blood you can show. So you'll see a lot of times when someone's getting hurt, they're bleeding some yellow pus instead of blood.
Yeah.
It's worth at least checking out just to see if you've seen it. But I don't know if Don Coscarelli, I think that's how you pronounce his name, he directed 5 of these movies. And I think he made his last one in 2016. And that was, I haven't seen that one quite yet, but I plan on watching that here tonight. Unfortunately, the guy who played the tall man, have you ever seen the imagery from Phantasm, at least?
No, I've never even heard of it.
Well dressed man. Look up Phantasm sometime, and you'll see the guy named I think it's August Scrimmy. He passed away, unfortunately, a couple years ago. So he was like kind of the lead villain character. He'd always say, "Boy."
Apparently, they have a remastered version from 2016.
He's a tall white dude with white hair, usually from the first movie.
Flying Death Sphere.
Phantasm. The delusion of a disordered mind.
Watch it sometimes. It's interesting. Any movies you had to recommend for me?
Have you seen John Dies at the End?
No, I have not.
That is a really fucked up movie that you should watch.
General synopsis?
Really hard to put a general synopsis on that one.
John Dies at the End.
See what IMDb has to say about it, because I can't describe that movie. It is an American dark fantasy science fiction comedy horror film written and directed by Don Corseriri and based.
But it's the same guy.
Same guy?
Look up the guy's history in a second, but yeah, Don Coscarelli.
Coscarelli, yeah. Same dude? Because
yeah, clicking on the name and it takes me off to his filmography, and yes, he's made both that and the Phantasm films.
See, because when you were describing the Phantasm film, I was thinking I know a similarly effed up film.
Apparently this Don guy doesn't make normal films much, though a couple of his were fairly normal. I remember Beastmaster not being too crazy as far as plot. It was just like a high fantasy or no, low fantasy setting. And I haven't seen some of these other ones. Bubba Hotep. It's just this weird comedy horror film with Bruce Campbell playing Elvis. Okay. And he made Phantom Ravager just after, apparently, John Dies at the End. But I'll need to check this out.
You mentioned like that with Bruce Campbell playing Elvis. I'm thinking, yeah, that's a role he would do.
Yeah, Bubba Hotep is actually pretty good.
Evil Dead is a good franchise.
Oh yeah. That would be Sam Raimi's series.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, just knowing Bruce Campbell, he likes to make all the jokes about himself in various movies. I mean, I'm a big Burn Notice fan. He was a title character in there, and one of the characters mates a man named Campbell last name, and he goes, "Campbell, what kind of name is that?" Or there's jokes about, "Oh, you with the chin." It's like, yeah, because he's got the fucking chin. But Yeah, he likes those jokes. It seems like.
Well, he did a whole movie about those jokes because there was a joke where there's a movie where basically he plays himself, an exaggerated version, and some kid kidnaps him to help them throw off some weird Chinese god character that reanimates people.
Okay.
But yeah, there is a Bruce Campbell movie where he plays himself.
I'm not surprised.
Let's see.
Yeah, Phantasm is weird. Looks weird. So Donald's Angry is asking, is Kanye going to be president?
I do not know. I would rather doubt it. This is kind of a late start.
I kind of hope they aren't.
My Name is Bruce is the name of that movie where he plays himself, by the way.
My Name is Bruce. That looks good.
Yeah, it came out in like 2007. I'm getting old.
Yeah, me too, man. I keep seeing stuff from like 2005 or whatever, and I'm like, that doesn't seem that long ago, but it's a while ago.
Someone born in 2000, it might be 20 right now.
It's nuts.
Next year, they'll be able to drink.
Yeah. Repeal the drinking age, 18.
Well, I think that's an argument to be made for making it common. A common age for both drinking, smoking, and being able to join military service.
That'd be 25.
Because right now, you can join the military service, but still not legally drink.
I
Yep.
have that argument before.
Join the military service, but not legally do porno. No, actually, no, you can.
You can join at 17. You can get away to go join at 17.
Well, you can't join porno at 17, but yeah. You can military.
Right, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah, they had to delete a whole bunch of Tracy Lord stuff because she was 17 when she did it.
I think she was younger than that even.
Yeah, she was younger than that for a while, but the majority of her stuff that was out there, she was like 17.
Ah, okay.
I had to delete it all.
Yeah, I haven't seen Tracy Lords in anything since Blade back in '97.
Oh, yeah, she was in that.
Wait, what did she play in Blade?
She was just one of the first vampires you were introduced to. She was driving some human to this vampire rave.
Oh, okay. I know what you're talking about. Okay.
Tracy Lords is worth $7 million. Good for her.
Damn, how? Because her career didn't last that long. I guess other appearances and so forth.
So in the mid 80s, she starred in X-rated skin, sought after pornographic. She was the most sought after pornographic actress in the adult industry. As of 2020, her net worth is $7 million. I don't know how she made that money, but she got it.
Cool. Oh, shit, yeah. I think if I could easily retire right now, it's on $7 million.
Yeah, that'd be a nice chunk of change to have. You know how we can get that $7 million? We'll just start our own ransomware as a service provider.
Oh, I thought you said we were going to both become porn stars.
We can do that too, but
I don't know if there's a good market out there for us.
yeah, I don't think anyone would pay to see me fuck somebody.
Well, actually, there's a whole fetish thing for guys that are a little bit more rotund, having sex with, let's say, normal-sized women and other that. Whatever it's out there, there's a fetish for it. However, you can't say no one wants to see it, but not enough probably to be market viable.
Yeah. Somebody put out a tweet earlier today. I think maybe it was in our channel about wanting to fight Deviant for.
Let's not go too much into that.
That looks funny.
If he's gonna clip this and whine on like, here's his thing. He attacks other people, then people respond back, and he goes like, "I'm being targeted." So let's talk about him off air.
Okay. What else is going on? I got a flag. You see my flag?
Yep, the red is for firemen and the blue is for police officers, isn't it?
Correct. That should piss off a whole bunch of my liberal friends when they see it. You're supporting the police. We need to defund the police.
No, we need to. What we need to do with police is we need to get training out to various people about how to react when the police are there, so you don't get yourself shot. But we also need better training.
Rock put out a video to that effect. That was pretty funny.
We need better training for the police about de-escalation, proper ways of doing takedowns, and so forth. By the way, the whole ban on chokeholds, after listening to some MMA guys talk about that, the problem is not chokeholds in of itself. The problem is doing it for 8 minutes and 64 seconds?
Yeah.
Because a chokehold, in some cases, at least according to these guys I've listened to, Joe Rogan and Steven Crowder, who both are into Brazilian jiu-jitsu, they basically indicated you could take someone out pretty fast with a blood choke that cuts off blood flow to the brain, and it could be safer than using a taser.
Yeah. I can tell you from experience, a chokehold, either air or blood choke, takes about 10 seconds or less usually for the person to pass out. I mean, it work regardless of how big the fuck you are. They work.
Yeah.
So, a 4'10" Korean woman could take my 6'2", 300-pound ass and choke me out in about 10 seconds. Back when I did Jeet Kune Do, the instructor's wife liked to spar with me because, again, I'm 6'2", 300 pounds. She's 5'6", maybe at least half my weight. So, yeah, she could throw my ass around the room, and yeah, it's not a matter of size; it's a matter of just wait long enough, and they're out.
According to T-Maker, there's a difference between blood chokes and air chokes. Blood chokes take seconds, and air chokes take longer.
Yes and no. I mean, air chokes can take longer, but it doesn't take longer for enough air to be passed out. It's enough air to be exhausted that you start losing consciousness.
Yeah, but you could damage the person's trachea.
Yeah, if you do it hard enough, yes.
So, Touter wants to know, can any of you guys tell me if there are any cons left that aren't paused?
Paused. Define paused. If you mean paused, if you mean screwed up or do you mean paused? If paused, I think these cons eventually come back. As far as not screwed up, I don't know. I think Show Me Con is really good. B-sides Cleveland's really good. B-sides Tampa has been good. I know I'm missing a whole bunch of other ones I should be saying, and I apologize. I'm not saying. Oh, Gurkon, and I'm assuming Burkon, which I haven't been to Burkon, only Gurkon, is great. See, I don't know what's going to be paused over the next year or so because I've only been to one conference this year, and that was back in, I think, late February.
All right. The next thing Touter Tommy says is, I used to love watching Adrian's talks, but I heard all the cons got full of danger, hairs, and troons. I don't know what danger, hair, or troon means.
Oh, maybe danger hairs means like that Richard Spencer Technicolor haircut I was talking about before.
Oh.
Where they shade the sides of the head, but they have all sorts of colors or one color, that's not natural color as the top part.
Oh, okay. What's a troon?
I have a rough idea, but I'm not going to say right now.
Okay. I'll have to Urban Dictionary that later. Alrighty.
Well, I think I'm going to end the stream out to YouTube. We'll hang out for a bit afterwards just to talk on Jitsi. Everybody, have a good night, and see you same time next week.
Later.
Later, alligator.